And we're live. How are you? How was your weekend? It's cold in the Midwest. It is definitely cold in the Midwest. I am your host, Dante Royster, owner of Epic Mortgage and Epic Spotlight Live. Here we are. Okay, interesting. Does have the link. All right, hold on. Special guest. Said he didn't get the link. Make sure he has it. Sometimes. Let's see. He got it now. All right, so we will have our special guest, Randall Avery, with us momentarily. And here we go. How's everybody doing? Everyone have a nice weekend. The Oscars were yesterday. Who watched the Oscars? I had to stay up and watch one battle after another. I saw those big names. Benicio del Toro and Sean Penn, and who else was on there? Tiana Taylor and Leonardo. So I was like, all right, let me go ahead and watch this. Let me see what's going on. So it was an interesting movie, talking about extremes on both sides of the coin. So it was interesting in that nature. I'm going to check out Sinners too. I haven't had a chance to really watch them. So it'll be interesting to see, interesting to be there. And so that's a good thing. So we will be talking about AI today. AI is definitely something we're going to be talking about today. There's quite an earthquake happening. Let's see. Yes. So we're going to see Randall Avery join us shortly. So let me just make sure that. Apologize. All right, and it says there's quite an earthquake happening beneath the American workforce right now. Not the kind that knocks buildings down overnight, the kind that shifts the ground slowly until one morning you wake up and realize the street you were standing on doesn't exist anymore. For generations, we were sold a simple formula: go to school, get the degree, land the stable job, climb the ladder. And if you worked hard enough, someday that ladder would lead you to security. But something strange is happening in the age of artificial intelligence. The ladder is being replaced by an algorithm. Reports written in seconds, code generated instantly, marketing campaigns built by software, legal briefs drafted by machines. Jobs that once took teams of people now take a prompt and a processor. And for many people, that feels terrifying. But today I wanted to introduce a different idea, a dangerous idea. Maybe if AI can replace your job, maybe it should, because if a machine can replicate what you do, then maybe the real problem isn't the technology. Maybe the problem is that we were trained to build careers that were never truly ours to begin with. And that is a topic that we can talk about today. Welcome, Mr. Avery.
How's it going? How you been today?
I'm cold, my man. We got a winter weather advisory up here, 26 degrees, cloudy, snow on the ground again. Winter doesn't want to let go.
I'm just waiting on you to move to Atlanta. Solve all your problems. The only bad part is our football team is equally not as good. So that's what you have to deal with.
We're on the up and coming. I don't know. It is funny, and I don't know if we can transform this into life, but it seems like you want to be on one side or the other. You want to be one of the best teams or one of the worst teams, because then you know what direction you're going. But when you're stuck in the middle,
yes,
and ATL has been stuck in the middle, whether it's basketball, the Atlanta Hawks, or the Atlanta Falcons, they had that one. Well, you guys had the Dirty Birds. I can remember. That was a nice run, and then you had the run with obviously who was that? Your quarterback,
Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan.
Yep.
You made that run and had the lead. What, 28-3, 28-10 at half?
We don't speak on such things. Those,
No.
that's bad omen. So we can't bring that up.
So yeah, it is but you guys have had some cold weather thus
Yes.
far.
Yes.
So you're dealing with, so I think it's all the way around. But today, you actually brought this topic up, so I'm definitely curious to see what directions we're going to kind of go and how we're going to get through this. My apologies for not sending you that link.
All right.
OMG. But let's start off with a question like this. Um, why well, people are in fear of AI. I'm getting this. I've flirted around with AI several times on some just marketing campaigns, and some people like it, some people think it's funny, and then other people are like, so like, oh my god, you used AI. You shouldn't be using that. So, I mean, what is your perception of AI, and just where are you with it?
I'm a big fan of it. I don't think a day goes by when I don't use AI. AI is very important, especially today in just communication. But even those who don't use it for communication and marketing material, folks are using it to write code. They're using it to build websites. It is something that is going to touch every aspect of your life moving forward, and we have a choice to embrace it or get left behind.
Understood. Now, there's always the fear of, are you fearful of your job being extinct? Do I need Randall Avery in 5 years from now?
And that's a great question. And there's a possibility you don't. I think if everybody takes the approach of my job is expendable, my job can no longer be there, hopefully a behavior will change where we can think of, okay, well, where am I adding value versus what task am I completing? And I think that's the mind shift. Hopefully, we're going to dive into today. How do you move from the value that I create versus the task that I'm able to complete?
So for most jobs, it's task oriented, right? It's like, I'm paying you, I'm trading dollars for hours, and I'm saying, here, I need you to complete these tasks for me. And if you complete these tasks for me, you continue to work. So how are you approaching task versus value? Because that's an interesting take on that.
Yeah, so I think, and we've heard this, all business owners who are listening know this. There's riches and niches. It's really identifying a specific target folks that you want to serve. And what happens when you have a niche, you have the opportunity to super serve those folks, anticipate their needs, anticipates their wants and their desires. And once you go down that rabbit hole of anticipating a small group of the population needs, enough of the population to sustain your business, that's when I think you can move from value add to just a specific task. So tasks in my world are allocating portfolios. Well, there's programs that can do that for you. Somebody who can write a financial plan. There's AI technology that can do that if you just input the information that you have. But being able to understand a person, being able to go deeper with them and know their journey, I think that's a level of value add it has not touched yet. But it doesn't mean it's not going to. So that's where we are. So as long as you take the approach of my job can be eliminated, more than likely the tasks that I will do will be eliminated, then you can go down the value added train or trail.
I looked at, when we were getting ready for this one, I was looking at technology, how it interjects and potentially destroys one job but creates a new one. So for example, like in the 1900s, it was farm labor,
Mhm.
and then the farm labor hands ended up being factory workers.
Yes.
In the 1950s, those factory workers became office workers.
Mhm.
So there is a level of transitioning that actually occurs. Yes, one loses while the other one gains. We can go in 2000, office clerks, converted into software developers. Knowledge workers, are now AI operators and creators. So, there is a transition with everything. So it's not total obsolete, for a certain industry or a certain, workforce, but I think you do have to change what you're doing.
Yeah. I think it's similar to, I think there was a big pushback when you go to the grocery store having those self-checkout lines.
There you
People are
go.
like, I need a person. You're taking jobs. It's not the same experience. But as you're alluding to, well, somebody has to build those self checkout machines. Somebody has to service those self checkout machines. So it's not a complete one job gain, but there is a transition of jobs. And I think the people who get left behind are those who are unwilling to see the change and ride with it.
Yeah, it is very hard to be a trendsetter. It's very hard to be a pioneer in something. I even myself don't have that 100% foresight, but definitely we've been put on notice for AI for quite some time. And so it would be foolery for anyone to sit there and kind of turn a blind eye to what it's doing, what it's capable of doing, and just the magnitude. But I think a lot of people are surprised. It went into kind of the arts first. It kind of went into music. You can create a flyer. You can create some of those things are able to be done in a quite efficient manner. But I was curious, what jobs in particular are you thinking definitely would, potentially be obsolete?
I think a lot of the administrative roles. So sending, if your job is corresponding to emails, if your job is writing, I have some clients, they work in the, what is it called, copyrighted space. Things of that nature are easily going to be eliminated. Calendar scheduling. Those tasks are probably the first ones to go away, and then we become more advanced. I could even see a situation where counseling, some of those tasks are being eliminated. So I don't think at this stage there's anything off limits when we talk about what AI touches. And what's first is really about who's going to be innovative enough to tackle those tasks. Are you worried about your space?
No, but I'm adapting to it. I understand some of the things that you can do with AI in terms of me, but right now I think I have a position that can, is relative to exactly what you said. Just providing the value, having the insight, the human touch, the explanation. AI sometimes doesn't go in depth per se. Sometimes people are not confident in what should I ask, you know, and therefore there's nuances to it. My job is more of a guidance counselor to some degree. You don't have to be in a bad situation to be put in a better one. And so offering opportunities that maybe someone didn't realize. So for example, if you're in a need situation like Randall needs help, then of course there might become a time where AI takes all those situations you need it. But if you're in a good situation, but you could be put in a better situation, I think that's where my niche will end up evolving and focusing on those folks that I can actually say, hey, you're in a great situation. AI is not going to knock on your door because they don't see any issues. But let me show you what this capability, what you could do to maybe, 5 times where you are, let me 10x your net worth of some sort. So I think having the experience levels and maybe higher education, will always reign supreme in these situations, in these conversations.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that. I think in our world, my biggest worry is AI is going to become everybody's personal assistants.
Of course.
And so you have a personal assistant, and what's going to happen is let's say I'm getting a loan for you. My personal assistant, who supports my entire life, is actually going to begin to conversate with your personal assistants, eliminating all friction. Your personal assistant knows everything about you. My personal assistant knows everything about me. So it meshes the two desires together. Now, the question is, who's going to profit from that? And that I haven't figured that out.
Sure. No, it'll be interesting. I mean, I still think they're trying to figure out how to monetize it, right? I mean, that's why we're still kind of quote unquote in an AI bubble because we really haven't figured out, right now we're just trying to make sure everyone's using it. And, there's a lot of reluctance to it because, you feel like, hey, this is my enemy. My enemy is coming to take my job. So I don't want to use it at all. But in actuality, we need to become more friends and embrace it. So we're in that period of time of trying to embrace it. Who's pushing it onto us? who's resisting it. And I mean, obviously, it comes with generations, right? So my kids, that are Generation Alpha, they already know about ChatGPT, and they know about Gemini, and they know how to maneuver and work those systems. So some of this is going to be their generation as they infiltrate the workforce, that will be used to it and be like, hey, it's not a big ordeal, versus obviously maybe our generation.
Yeah, I agree. And I,
I
I
s-
do believe I do
Go ahead.
believe there are some skill sets that will service you no matter what happens. And I think the irony is that these are the skill sets I feel like the new generation is lacking. One of the skill sets is hard work. There'll be always a place for an individual who's willing to work hard. The second thing is socializing. Socialization is going down in our society. People aren't connecting with each other. People aren't even striving to be likable anymore. And I think that's a big problem. If you're likable, there's a higher chance you'll be employed than others. Folks say, okay, I'm qualified. I have these degrees and certifications. I have all these things listed here. But does somebody like working with you? Do they see you in a favorable light? And I think the last thing is always continue to learn. Yes, we have AI to solve a problem, but do you have the capacity to learn and take that learning and apply it? I can chat GPT all day long, but am I taking that knowledge and putting it into action? I see a lot of people fall into the chat GPT hole where they're just learning and absurd and taking things in, thinking they've accomplished something, but it's actually taking that knowledge and applying it to the real world. I think will be the differentiator. Those who actually act. And there's not a lot of acting, not a lot of learning, and there's not a lot of collaborating, I think. And those are the people who are going to be left behind.
It's interesting, and just little things like this. Consultants, someone that has success in an industry will say, now I can be a consultant for the next generation, and pay me X amount of dollars, and I can show you the way.
Yeah.
Now, those people, mind you, would have to be careful, because they can be replaced. Instead of paying X, I can get it, right now I can get it for free. Now you're saying the only difference is, can I interpret the information and see how I can practically implement it into my world, versus this one person saying, here, I have this experience, I have this success, pay me X, and I'll show you the way. So these pseudo gatekeepers are the ones that might be the ones on the outside, losing a source of revenue. I wrote down, when we look at white collar, because I wanted to get into the corporate safety nets, the lack thereof. But white collar jobs, I wrote down data entry clerks, bookkeepers, paralegals, customer support agents, transcriptionists, someone that transcribes information, junior programmers, accounting, basic levels of accountants, insurance underwriters, loan processors, especially in the mortgage space, and research assistants. I came top of head on stuff that can, a paralegal, spends time reading and highlighting, and I can get, some form of AI to just do that, in half the time. And so with these white collar jobs that, someone right now is, making 60 to 80 to maybe even $90,000. Some of them at times are, let's just say, 60 to 120. I'm curious to note the conversation that I'm starting to have more and more is like, how safe are these corporations? That used to be the blanket, right? The warm blanket that I can always hold on to, that corporate America's got my back. And do they really? Do they have your back? I mean, what's your take on that? Obviously, as you work with clients, what are you seeing?
Yeah. So the concept of a corporation is very similar to a pyramid scheme. And the concept is, high earners above that are very few, and low earners below that are many, right? So you have to be able to pay people at a lower rate to keep the corporate structure going. And what I'm seeing is corporations are deciding to go smaller to be more nimble. Remember, the more action and less administrative tasks. So because corporations are becoming smaller, they're going to need fewer employees. Now there'll still be, making a lot of profit and gaining things, but their goal is to really shrink down their employee count. Now, going back to if I have a degree, I assume that, hey, I'll always be employable. If I have a skill set to complete a task, I thought I'd always be employable. Well, that's not going to be the case anymore because there are going to be fewer of those individuals needed to complete certain tasks. And I think that's where the difference comes in, is that there's just going to be fewer needs. And those who get those roles are going to be the ones that, as I mentioned, have the work ethic, get things done that people like. And now those are going to be the secret sauce that nobody is teaching our youth to focus on.
There was plenty of times that back in the day, let's take it 1960s, 1970s, you didn't have a college degree and still were able to get a job.
Yeah.
And to your point, knowing them, liking them, trusting them. Also, they worked hard. And sometimes working hard was, hey, we'll let you slide and get this job. And you may not necessarily have the prerequisites that others would, have to have in order to do that. I did some going back in time because I was actually kind of wrong on this, and so I was wanted to clear it up for myself. But
Mhm.
the workforce in the 1920s, 25% of jobs were agriculture, 40% were manufacturing, and only 5% were professional jobs. And so we have now seen that professional jobs have now taken from 5% in the 1920s. Fast forward 100 years, 35% of the workforce, and less than 1% are agricultural jobs. So I mean, the change has been made in just from the farming lands, the rural to the urban, the urbanization. And so we're just seeing the transformation of this type of economy. But I just I am curious. I was playing around with numbers because I was just curious on people being self-employed, because so many people are scared to be you and I, to take that leap of faith. How do you pay your bills every month? How do you have money to go out? How do you function? And I just feel like this corporate myth is, especially in times like this when you see the consolidations, you see the monopolies, and same companies buying each other, just getting larger, and then there's excess, and they're trimming the fat. I had a client of mine and a friend, probably makes about 160,000, and he took a new position at another firm, and was there probably for about 4 months just recently, and he told me last week he was let go. He was laid off. After 4 months, they let go of 120 employees, including him. So like in nature, last one hired, first one fired. And just want to get your thoughts on that, on just what are you seeing in that nature?
Yeah, and I think that I recently had a conversation with a therapist, and they specialize in working with government employees. And one assumes government jobs, simple, stable. You really have to mess up to lose a job. But in this stage and age, with things like Doge, things, they are trying to trim the fat. And so there's really no sector where you can say, my job is secure and stable. You can't even say that in a nonprofit space because they're cutting funding there. So there's a lot of areas where 20 years ago, it's easy to assume that an engineer would have to have a job, right? But no job is safe. And I think there is going to have to be a transition to thinking about being self employed. But that goes back to how we started this conversation. You have to move yourself from task to value add. And that is hard for a person to go from task to value add. And then we talked about those people skills, customer service. I have to sit across from somebody, get somebody to purchase them, service them, and hopefully they'll repeat the purchase in the future because they've had that amazing of an experience. That is not taught, that is not discussed, and there has to be something to that.
It's almost that we have to take a class in school of a salesmanship. Basic sales, our principles, because we're selling ourselves each and every day. You know, with conversations being done over the phone, in person, over the internet, like we're doing right now. But we need to have a comfort level of being uncomfortable. And I think the fact that people are not uncomfortable are it's a delusion. It's a level of delusion now. The delusion is that, hey, I'm okay, and you're not. You're one day away of a business decision. It's forever changing it. I remember, I was at a corporate America job, and that's kind of got me going here, where they hired right management. It was a third party company that comes in and says, "Hey, this place is closing down in 15 minutes. You need to pack up." And I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" I'm the manager at the time, and this was in 2020 or 2006. And having that experience was like, some random guy with security behind him saying, "Hey, I'm going to just lay it to you. This is over. The company has made a decision." And the thing that always scared me about corporate America is that they make decisions on my life that affect me, and I'm not at the table to have that discussion. And that's a problem. And to your point, my wife's aunt, she took a job with the government, and the job, as far as the job ad was remote work.
Mhm.
Now, this was pre-election. So when the new president comes in, with Deutsch comes in, they say everyone back to the offices. But that's not what she took the job for. She took it because it was a remote work, and cause and effect was, it was an hour commute for her. She would never would have looked at this job in the first place if it was going to be in the office, because there was just like, she didn't want to drive, on 1 hour there, 1 hour back. And they forced her back into the office. Now, luckily, she was of retirement age, and she lasted a year, and she, retired. Not when she wanted to, but it was almost like mandated for her. So, from a personal perspective, I have these, small little stories that I've seen firsthand of just, corporate America, business decisions being made that can affect your life, and you're not really a part of that conversation. So I sit here today saying, I can't believe anyone would want to work for somebody that you have no say,
Yeah.
or you don't know what's going on. I mean, that's scary stuff.
It is scary. I have a similar story where my first years in corporate America, um, I was working in internal audit. There was a group that did IT auditing. First couple years, one of the guys, he was my mentor, was real cool. They pulled us into an office one day and they was like, "Hey, we're letting this group go." In my mind, I'm young. I'm like, well, that dude has a family. That dude has friends. And one day you could just take his job away. And I think similar to you, that led me on the path to entrepreneurship because I never felt secure. If you could do that to that guy, who I perceived was a hard worker, dedicated, was a company man, 20 years in the game, how can I have any loyalty towards you? And the little things like the dinners, the gatherings, I thought was just, kind of like a show, a sad show, to showing that they are loyal to when they're actually not. And you're right. So I think 100% right. You should never have trusted it, but I think there's a veil put over folks' face starting in college, moving on into their career, thinking that, hey, I'm secure. And that leads to poor financial decision, as you know, when you look under the hood and try to get people mortgages. It's like, you have not been responsible, are behaving as if this job will ever let you go. And that's a problem.
Correct. And one of the things that I normally see, the chest is out when they talk about the President's Club or the honorary club or whatever they call it, the circle. Hey, I made it. And the funny part about the President's Club is, they'll take you to Hawaii or Vegas or something like that. And I was just like, one day I was like, let me look, let me price this out myself. And and it's funny to some degree. It's like, this trip, you probably got a discount because you had all these people here, but you could probably take that trip with your wife or your significant other for less than $1,500 for 2 days, and that's the reason why you're with this company. this little trip because because you won this, so people have a need, and that's where I do understand there are people out there that have this need to feel included.
Yeah.
There are people that feel a need to to get admiration, that pat on the back. Some of that stuff, from a psychological level, you don't get as being self-employed, right? There is a level of you're just going to have to, be comfortable
Mhm.
in your own skin and know that, hey, there's a bigger cause, there's a bigger why that I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And you won't get all that necessarily, all those bells and whistles, from a, hey, attaboy, here, let me give you 2 days in the sun and say thank you.
Yeah, I agree with that. I One of the best companies, culture wise, I've worked for, as far as them being fully transparent, was some called Market Based Management. It's a really good book. And they consistently told us, if you aren't performing to a standard that we want, we will let you go. And you are not measured to who you are, you're measured to the market. And because I don't think there's anything wrong with being an employee. I think as long as everybody's understanding of the arrangement, because hopefully I grow my company to where I won't only have 1099, I'll have full-time employees. So I don't think there's anything wrong with being an employee, but just be honest with what's going on. Because if you're always faced, and they consistently said this, that your job can be eliminated at any time, you're being measured to the market. We'll outsource you in a second. But they could still say that with honesty and integrity. I think it's more like the move to football, the Patriots way. Like, hey,
I like that.
we're here for the team to win. You're here for this team to win. At any moment, we will let you go, but I will not lie to you or even manipulate you to think that there's anything different. And we are consistently measuring you to the outside forces, and you should be doing the same thing for yourself for your own benefit. And I think we just need to be honest with folks.
And it's hard to be honest from a corporate perspective because you don't want them looking for a new job. You don't want them, starting, you want them to have the horse blinders on, bleeding your colors, bleeding your, work hard, work hard, work hard, and I'm not looking. But then all of a sudden, you start giving them reality, and then they say, "Hey, I'm going to take a peek over here. I'm going to take a peek over there, because I got to make sure I might have to jump ship." And most times, no, everything's going great. We're as strong as an ox. We're not going anywhere. I see a great big future for you, and then that gets those horse blinders on and they got you. So it is just something, to be mindful of. From a stats perspective, I found this to be interesting. In 1948, about 18.5% of US workers were self-employed.
Mm.
18 and a half. It dropped as low as in 2003, it was 7.5. And now, as of 2015, it was 10%. So I mean, you could say that it's on a uphill climb. It's starting to get back to maybe where it was. But I think, to your point, corporate society, corporate just comfort has allowed us to feel this, oh, I got the safety net. I'm comfortable with getting this paycheck every 2 weeks, getting some money put into my 401k. And then if you let me go, I'm going to get this severance package. And then I'm going, and hopefully it's 3 months, 6 months. If I really had a high position, maybe it's a year, and then that'll give me time to lick my wounds, because it is kind of embarrassing when you lose your job, because that's what people knew you for. And it's like, no, I don't do that anymore. And then you got to go, hustle up and find another corporation that, hey, can I jump on your ship? And let's see how far I can ride it. But I just, with the nature, I don't have the stat with me, but it does feel like the averages on how long people stay, the longevity has gone down over the years.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. It's tough. Okay, people love certainty. People don't want to deal with applying to places. I want to go to the same office for 5 years straight. I know where I park. I know my username and credentials. And now to tell me that though that reality is changing, it's hard. It's similar to when manufacturing. A lot of manufacturing went out of the United States as far as manufacturing jobs. It's hard to tell that manufacturer who did that for 10 years that now they have to upskill, and now they have to do something different. And that's what we're facing now. And I think that's what we have to address today.
Yeah. Now, we do have some questions today, and I want to get to them and appreciate everyone. It seems like we get more and more questions each and every time we do this. So, appreciate the audience for listening to us today. But, Randall, before we get going, let everybody know how they can reach you.
Sure. My name's Randall Avery. I'm owner of Diesel Wealth Management. The best way to reach me to learn more about the services that I offer, I specifically work with those who are about to retire, self-employed individuals, and practice owners. So practices are therapists, dentists, and attorneys. If you're looking for somebody to get your arms around your finances, please, best way to reach out to me is my website. It's going to be www.deasilwm.com. That's www.deasilwm.com. And that way you can learn more about me, what I do, and I also have a YouTube channel where I speak to help practice owners who may not be ready for a financial planner at this time.
What is the channel?
The channel is under my name, Randall Avery, so it should be pretty easy to find.
Randall Avery YouTube channel. Awesome. Well, this episode today is sponsored by Epic Mortgage. Whether you're buying, refinancing, or investing, call Epic today, 708-905-5300, 708-905-5300. It's your dreams, your goals. Let's plan together. And then I'll drop it in the chat. Just if you're looking for if you want to look at some of our preferred listings, our new list is out. And that is on www.danteroyster.com. So definitely, if you have a chance, check out danteroyster.com, and that'll allow you to go ahead and see some of the preferred listings as we're helping people buy and sell real estate. All right, let's get to these questions. Great show. Do you think AI will replace most office jobs soon? How soon do you think? What timeline do we have, Randall? What do you, in your magic crystal ball, what do you say?
My gut is I wouldn't say all office jobs. I definitely think it's going to be a 30% haircut in the next 5 years, just 30% of the traditional office job. Now, what will replace that? I think there will be some. So I think 30% of today's office jobs, but then I think at least another 10% of something new, something innovative, maybe just an AI prompt master or an AI implementer will offset some of that job loss. But I think in the next 5 years, you're going to see some significant cuts on the white collar jobs.
Really insightful discussion. Thanks for sharing the perspective. Thanks, Bradley, for listening. Do you think AI will create more jobs than it replaces in the long run?
No, I don't. I think there would be, and this is kind of like the Andrew Wang universal basic income need. AI will create a lot of prosperity. And without a lot of prosperity means a lot of people won't have to do a lot of jobs, because hopefully AI will help us farm. Hopefully AI will help us with energy efficiency. Hopefully AI will help us with building construction, which will make things cheaper. So if everything is at a better place, there'll be less need for humans to interact, which means they won't be working, meaning that we will have to find something or some way for these folks can earn a certain money. So I think it will permanently replace some jobs, and we will have to decide what to do with our society when that happens.
Case in point, obviously you referenced earlier the grocery stores, right? You go to the the checkouts. You'll have potentially anywhere from 4 to 8 different self checkouts, and you have maybe 1, maybe 2 overseers.
Mhm.
And consequently, just think about how many, you would have had a cashier and a bagger, maybe at 3 to 4 more different lanes. That is gone now. Now you just have self checkout. You do it yourself, and we'll just manage to make sure you're not stealing or not, scanning the food appropriately, forcing you to, scan your own food. I'm working for the grocery store.
Yeah.
It's crazy. How can someone transition from a corporate job to entrepreneurship safely?
I believe that you have to begin to add value to somebody. Figure out where your specialty and where you are naturally gifted at, and angle that towards the how can I serve somebody. And you may have to serve some people for free for a little while to really understand, one, does this add value to them, and how much that value is. Once you begin able to charge for that value you're producing, then you can kind of slowly reducing your corporate job work and go fully into entrepreneurship. But first, you have to figure out what thing or what task is actually somebody willing to pay for. And I think one little caveat is I had to learn that there's a difference between something that folks need and what folks are, what actually people demand, right?
Mm.
So people need help with financial advice, but how much demand, meaning how much individuals are willing to swipe the card and pay for financial advice, is completely different numbers in different markets. So understand that you may have this great idea that every people can need and benefit from, but you need to go where people are paying for those services.
The one concept is to assess that kind of denomination of people that are interested in paying upfront before you create something. A lot of times we create something, hey, I'm going to start this business because I know people all said that they want to have cookies, and then I have a cookie store, and then no one comes for my cookies,
Mhm.
and it's like, did I just spend all this money creating this thing thinking that people were going to come? Or should I have created orders first,
Yeah.
got the orders, taken them, and then, okay, let me create it? So there is a little bit of a mindset shift that you have to have as an entrepreneur, especially if you're trying to be as efficient as possible. You may want to collect the information, get the orders in first before you just start, creating, this is what I'm going to be.
One more answer: start small. Don't try to buy this big kitchen. Don't try to get all those things. Start in your kitchen, bake the cookies, deliver the product, and that way, because the secret to business is constant reiteration, slowly getting better in the cookie scenario, improving the cookie recipe, improving how the cookies are delivered, and slowly over time. People don't tell you that is technically what business is. It's not delivering the cookies, it's the process of always continually improving onto that. And that's where businesses are created.
I love that. Sometimes it's funny when you reference that because some people won't let you grow up. Because they might have had a okay experience or a bad experience, what have you. But that was 2012. I said I'm in 2026. Well, I mean, well, you still gonna hold me to that standard? And sometimes, first impressions is all you get, but you do have to be mindful of that. But it is funny to your point, as you're tweaking things, getting better. Okay, these are my holes. These are the spots I need to get better with. Businesses do hopefully get better in time. And you should give it another chance, because I was like, man, that's 2012. You still talking about 2012? We doing this in 2026.
Yes, yes.
That's funny. Is learning AI tools now becoming a basic skill like using the internet? How
I
far are
agree.
you going? How far are you going in that?
As far as I think, well, you can't Google anything without an AI response.
100%.
And most people, I think their studies show, fewer people are making it below the AI result. So it is part of the internet. I don't think you can now separate the internet from AI. It's kind of inbound. So even if you say I ain't using ChatGPT yet, you're using an AI type of tool. So AI will become a basic skills. In my profession, they actually have classes and courses on how to use it appropriately as far as how to prompt different things. And that is a talent and skill. And that talent with skill will evolve as AI evolves. So, yes, using AI is going to be almost like using Google email. Like we had to learn how to use that and the nuances of that. You will also learn how to know the nuances of AI to compete in this world.
On my feed on Facebook, I get, the guy that says, you need 30 days of AI and you're going to learn all the different apps. Are you there mentally saying, I got to know all these apps? Because at one time I started trying to write them down and I was like, okay, I'll get to them. Or are you just like, hey, I know Gemini, I know Chat, I'm good?
I think it goes back to the earlier conversation of where are you adding value. As long as you know where you're adding value and you're learning that specific area, it's
Mhm.
very similar to you can learn as much as you want to about social media. But all you need is to how to communicate to that small group of people who are going to buy and sell your services and to communicate to them well where they're at. So I don't think you need to know everything with AI, but I do think you need to know where you are adding value and and continue innovating, like we said earlier, with that knowledge and where that is. And sometimes that is taking some outside pieces, but just focus on the value add because you can get lost in that stuff. And there's probably a degree in AI in which nobody may be hiring for either.
Sure. Could AI actually help people discover more meaningful work? Ooh, this got to be this has got to be a Gen Z right here. Meaningful work.
Meaningful. What does that mean? Well, I do believe AI will remove the gatekeepers. Dante, I think you mentioned that consultants will go away, are reduced, or the tasks they're doing now will be no longer needed because of AI. So I do believe AI, just like the internet did, removes gatekeepers, so people can actually enter the different markets, and you can find different work. Whether it's meaningful or not will be dependent on what you value and what you hold dear and true to. So I do believe it will help you discover more meaningful work if you put in the work to find it. Yes.
I uh, I think of I think of a son or a daughter living at home with their parents,
Mhm.
and the parents are 100% comfortable with their son or daughter staying at home with them, not giving them a deadline to get out and and find themselves, like, hey, you can stay here, we know it's expensive out there. And it affords, with that, kind of umbrella, it affords the opportunity for that son or daughter to kind of take their time, so to speak, as far as work that they really want to sink their teeth into, where they almost are, um, maybe not the right word, but judgmental on each and every opportunity that's offered. No, tell me more. Let me think about it. Almost lamenting to the fact, like, of course I'm going to work hard once I get it, but I really have the time and capacity to kind of, really think out what I really want to do next.
Yeah. To that response, I believe all information is connected. So if that person who's staying at home is worried about, I may waste my time doing something else, I don't necessarily believe that. I think all knowledge is connected. You specialize in this will eventually help you specialize in something else. And I think that goes back to work ethic, really. Like the ability to stay at home and do nothing should actually hurt more than working, which is
Man,
different in this generation.
bad experiences are great because then you know what you don't want to have.
Man of that.
I was I worked for Oberwise Dairy as a kid, man, and they put me in the freezer. Man, it was like negative 120. I said, "No, we ain't doing this. There's got to be something better for me."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you believe ownership will really become more valuable than employment?
Yeah, because all these tools at AI that we're talking about are things to make businesses more efficient and employees more efficient. Now, actually, this is a tricky one because employees will be more efficient, so hopefully they'll become more valuable. But the value they'll add will go to the business. So I still think business ownership will reap a lot of the benefits of innovation, but I do think there will be profits for employees that know how to leverage these innovations as well. So ownership will become more valuable, but I think the employees who take initiative can also enrich themselves.
What I find fascinating and interesting is that when AI was really kind of brought on as as an assistant, to your point, I found myself doing more than less.
Yes.
So I was like, man, I was like, this is crazy. I'm used to doing 8 things, and now I'm doing like 14, 16 things. So I feel even more busier than I did before. I'm just getting it done quicker. So maybe another way of looking at it, I'm climbing that mountain quicker, where it would have taken me a month. Now I've reduced it now to a week where I can climb up quicker.
Yeah, because I think one area is I could read a book in 4 months, or AI can tell me to do this in 2 minutes, and you just do it. But it goes back to what it said: Are you willing to take the information you learn and put it into the real world, which people are having challenges doing?
Sure. What's one habit people should build today for future proof their careers?
Yeah, I think we touched on this, but we'll reiterate it again. It's definitely hard work. Hard work will never go away. Um, Being likable, relatable, being getting people to trust you and value your presence in the room. I think can be, and always continue to learn. Like I said, I think Dante, you alluded to, yeah, you're learning faster now than you ever have in your career, and that's not going to slow down. So building that endurance for that, I think is important.
Yeah, I agree with you. You're learning a lot, and I think critical thinking is so important at this juncture because there's so much information. We're inundated with all this information that's right at our fingertips, and it's just how to effectively use it and to be successful. And to your point of working hard, being social, not losing the social component because sometimes when I get here, and I'm ready to work, I engage and there is no water cooler talk, and I think, I don't want to lose that, where having the ability to have just some conversations that aren't always work related, I think is a healthy thing. But sometimes, it's almost like we're in the matrix and we're plugging in and now we're just information, work, 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 work. So I mean, we do kind of still have to have that social level, and I know it's tricky now with the hybrid. It's still 60% of people are doing the hybrid type of job. So I mean, we have to find ways to still be sociable creatures and talk to people, and it's not always around work. We got another one right here. How can someone use AI as a partner instead of seeing it as a threat?
I think you have to grow with it. AI, what it is right now, it's not going away. It's going to be more ingrained into our lives. So learn with AI. I think figure out where the win-wins are. And remember, I spoke earlier about value. Like if I leverage AI and my client has an amazing experience, I mean, you should be happier than AI is, right? Because you have super served your clients and hopefully eventually that will lead to more profits in the future. So as long as you can use it to reap benefits for the value that you're adding to your clients and reap benefit economically, I don't see how you could see it as a pure threat. As long as you are keeping your eyes open, knowing that your job can be eliminated at any time.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, basically, as a partner, aka assistant, it's really just introducing yourself to AI and telling AI who you are, and then it can even give you recommendations. You could type in, "Hey, I'm Randall Avery, and this is what I do. How can I best utilize you?" And it'll just give you a whole rendition of, oh, these are all the things I can do for you. I mean, so really just having that conversation with the keyboard, and then it getting back to you, you can really develop, and it can truly be an assistant. And we're seeing all, billionaires and millionaires, successful people are doing this already. So if you haven't started, really developing your own partnership with AI, you're already, to some degree behind. You need to establish it's here to stay, it's not going anywhere, and we just have to embrace it and say how it can help you. And this is the cool thing too, if you have that job, you know AI can help you on the side developing that side piece, that side business, so you have something that you can interject if you need to, and that's the thing you got to utilize and use. What will AI make it easier for individuals to start businesses?
I think so. I believe, like I said, the AI will remove the gatekeepers. How do I form an LLC? What tax software is the best? How can I utilize this for my specific business? I do think it will be easier to start businesses from a what is the next step I have to do. But I will always reiterate people get analysis paralysis. They will AI themselves to death to the point where it's like, whew, I'm not doing all those things. Are delayed indefinitely, but your ability to utilize it and act is going to be what makes the difference. Because when you act, you can give it'll give you something AI won't give you, which is some type of wisdom, real world wisdom. And as a business owner, there's no substitute for skinning your knee, making mistakes, winning. That's also something to learn from. There's no substituting that.
I'm curious. I mean, because you deal with a lot of business owners, practices. What are some key components that you would say the ones that are, maybe not having it as easy versus someone that's really having success? What are you seeing in their businesses that you could let the audience know about as far as business owners?
Yeah. And it's been said across the internet, and it doesn't change if you're a practice owner or any other type of business owner. The ability to make sales. You you can there's a word that says growth covers a multitude of sins. You cannot have the best business, but if you can look somebody in the eye and say, "Hey, work with me," or "I can provide this service better than somebody else." So the ability to sell is it could go away. Like I say, anything could go away, but right now there's still a premium on the ability to get customers through the door.
Yeah, the in sports analogy, they talk about winning, right? Winning cures everything. Having the ability to win, kind of just sets, you can learn, you can still learn, but winning is so important to the whole concept of learn, let's learn while we're winning. Let's let's not take the L's, and because that's tough to do. Lead generation, marketing. So that's good stuff. Interesting. Curious, what skills will be most valuable in the next 10 years? You got that crystal ball, Randall?
I'm gonna go back to what I said. Likability. Do somebody like you? Do they want to work with you? Are you that person that can provide value to them on a consistent basis in a way that makes them feel comfortable and happy? Those will be the skills in the next 2 years. Will not go away because people want to feel connected. They want to feel touched. They want to be seen and appreciated. And in this digital age, that is going away. So if you can provide that to somebody, I think it's safe to say you'll stay employed.
Yeah, those are the questions that we had today. Really good. Thank you, audience, for these questions. Make sure you give this a like, a thumbs up. Make sure you check out Randall Avery's channel, the Randall Avery channel, and make sure you subscribe to that as well. Randall, did we cover everything about this? I mean, obviously, AI is here to stay. That's what I heard from you today. Sure, there's going to be some jobs at risk, but you're going to have to, get out of a mindset of task and be in more of a mindset of value. Am I providing value to my clients, to my customers? Um, one thing I like about when you talk about value is when you are able to provide value, they tend to always want to do repeat business with you because they trust you and you did a good job once, they assume you're going to do it again. And then, they're willing to work with you. And I think that's so important. And obviously it just, you have to continue to build it out and grow and grow. But what are some other topics just on this? Did we touch everything that you want to touch or?
I think we covered most of them, but there is one area that I want to touch on, which is I would say the deception of higher learning, specifically colleges. Um, Colleges teach you usually only the skill sets and knowledge to work for a large institution. We just had a discussion on how large institutions are going to downsize. The skill sets that we're learning now are no longer applicable because of all this innovation. So I'm not saying not go to college. I think I'm a fan of college and learning, but put it in its right perspective. Your degree, your license, your designation does not create value for folks. And if you focus on the things that actually create value for folks, I think you will, yes, go get the degree. Yes, go get the license. Yes, go get the certification. But don't lean on those things to really provide for yourself, your family, and live the lifestyle that you want.
Excellent. I love that. Um, I'm curious. We were never in a stable career era. That was always the illusion,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
it is about, really developing your own career, your own portfolio. It has always been, the Randall Avery LLC. It's always been the Dante Royster LLC. Um, and yeah, I always I have a buddy. He's a vice president of sales for a food company, and he at first was kind of job hopping, and I said, man, and I was working for the one company, trying to be steady Eddie, putting all the time in. I was there at 11 o'clock at night on a Friday, just blood, sweat, and tears, to try to make sure everything gets done in the time of fashion. And he said to me, it was like my loyalties to my family. I have to look out for my family. And the moves that he made were always, based upon that. And it just, when we get to this point now, that was probably over 20 years ago when he said that. And I kind of was like, no, you're job hopping. But it's just that conscious effort to focus on you and your family is just so important, and not to be so spellbound, or fall for the illusion of this corporate safety net. You have to take care of your family, and you always have to be ready that if the company closes today, what are you going to do tomorrow?
And I think, like I said, it's a facade. If you look at successful people, there are some exceptions to every rule, but look at their resume. They all job hopped. They all bounced around. They all had so many different experiences, and that's what made them talented people. And I think if you remove the veil, focus on reality, I think it'll show you what you should be doing day in and day out.
That's awesome. All right, your contact information one more time.
Yeah, Randall Avery. You can Google me and find me on all socials. The best way to reach out to me is my website, which is going to be www.dasilwm.com, www.dasilwm.com. Also on social media, especially my YouTube channel, like and subscribe. It is Randall Avery, the YouTube channel. Please check that out. And I have a lot of content. Please consume it. That is kind of like my freemium, my way of giving back the information that I've learned.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening today. We'll be back on Wednesday with Jess Ford, and we have a special guest talking about real estate investing. So that's always, music to my ears. But we will be having that conversation on Wednesday. So everyone have a great rest of your day. Take care.